So yeah, we off to the next one then. As Miss Soraya, you want to start off with it, or you would like Miss Marsha to start off with
I
it?
like her to start off because I like to hear her first.
Okay.
Death.
We want to hear Miss Marsha what she has to say about. So we switched it up.
Okay.
We done changed the topic now.
Okay.
Now we done moved
now
over
we're
to
talking
death.
about death, which is a subject that's not easy to talk about, and a subject
Ooh, this is
people
gonna be a deep
avoid
one.
mostly
This is
in
gonna
their
be a deep
life.
one.
And I guess my first episode with death was my dad's death. He died when he was 61. He died of lung cancer because he smoked all his life. And that was difficult. It wasn't as difficult for me as my sister because she lived in New York where my parents were, and I was already in Florida with a family, my husband and my son. So I was sort of removed. But what happened is I went up there to be with my dad the last couple of weeks, and that's exactly what happened. And I found that in my presence, my dad could speak and express, and we had happy times and sad times because he was not going to be here much longer. My sister had a very terrible time dealing with it, as did my mother. And in time, they learned to cope. And then my sister moved down to Florida, my mother moved down to Florida, so the whole family was here, and it was a wonderful time for several years until my mother passed away at 89, just from, I think, old age.
Okay.
She never knew what was wrong with her. She had things, but not major things. And when she died, it was very, very sad. It was very sad for me because I was now the matriarch of the family, and I was no matriarch, you know? And yet you carry on, you cope, you go and do what you have to do. Not the same way you lived, but you learn skills of how to be and how to cope when you're crying at work or crying when it's not appropriate to cry. But you know what happened when my dog died? So now it's my mother. I'm gonna handle it. So my sister didn't handle it well. My sister was sort of the hippie generation and wild, and I was the little good one and did what I was supposed to do. So about maybe 2 years ago, my sister developed symptoms of dementia, and we noticed she was forgetting what time it was, what day it was. Did I feed the dogs? Should I feed the dogs? Let me feed the dogs. And the dogs already ate. So we knew we had a problem to deal with. And it became more and more until last May, when I'm her health surrogate. I had to put her in a memory care facility along with her, we call them husband, fiance. They were never married, but they were together 25 years. And my partner also found a memory care in Hollywood called Majestic Memory Care. So I lived in West End, and she lived in Hollywood at Majestic Memory Care, where she didn't have a phone. She would never have a phone for the rest of her life, although she got the nurses to let her use the phone. She was kind of like that. And they liked her very much, and at times they didn't because of her disease. And that process went on for 3 months. Day after day after day, we just watched a vibrant lady lose her feeling in her feet. She couldn't walk, she was in a wheelchair. And then she couldn't do much other than coloring a picture, which was fun. We did that in activities. And when all you can do is color a picture, you color a picture. So we did that, and she was just not right. She was more comfortable in bed, and they always wanted her up and to do PT. And she could not do PT, and she could not be up in a wheelchair because she didn't have the muscles. Her head was sort of to the right. And finally, she wasn't able to eat. She had to be fed, and she couldn't swallow. They were still giving her pills, and she couldn't swallow. So here comes another pigeon. So that was a learning and a helping and very hard to do because here she is, 74 years old, and she can't eat, she can't walk, she can talk, and her brain knew what we were saying or a song I was playing. And then she died. Now, in this time, I moved to Hollywood to be close to her, and we only had about maybe a month or a couple of weeks, and then she died. So dealing with that death was the hardest thing I had to deal with. We were very, very close. And when my parents died, I always had Jill, my sister. And here I am without Jill. Now, how do I do this? How do I do this life? Do I even want to? But you cope and you carry on. You get up each day and you put one foot in front of the other. And I knew I had to the day after she died, or I never would. And so that's how I live. And I live because my daughter-in-law said, I said, how will I live without Jill? And she said, slowly, one step at a time, and in her honor. And that's in my mind. So everything I do in the senior community, I live in a senior community, I help people, I touch people, I'll push people in a wheelchair, I'll do whatever they need to make their life easier, because that's what my sister would have done. And finding that was very difficult. Getting to there was very difficult. I couldn't sleep at all for probably years. I would be wide awake and up thinking and thinking and thinking, and I couldn't stop to meditate. I couldn't stop to cope. I just couldn't. So my psychologist found something called TMS. It's called transcranial magnetic stimulation. And what that was pulses in the frontal lobe of your brain. And you go for 36 sessions. You have to have been on medication for probably years that didn't work. You have to have tried different medications. So